glorious one, V the Guerrilla Economist, and I'm with my main man, El Cuco, who brings you the news, the views, and all the information important to you. Check us out, roguenews.com. Follow us on Twitter at Real Rogue News, and on Facebook, and on every single podcasting app, Note to Humanity. We are everywhere you want us to be, plus a bag of chips. And folks, I'm excited. I'm excited because there's a lot of great developments going on, CJ. The world is literally gone mad. It's gone mad, CJ.
And then some, V. And then some.
And then some. Gone mad, then some, bro. So a lot of things are happening, Siege. But before I even get into that, let me ask you, my dear friend, how's everything with you? What's new? What's crack-a-lack?
I'm doing great, V. I mean, the family's doing well. My son played organized football for the first time this year, and did a pretty darn good job at it. And his last game was today, so I'm excited for that.
What position did he
play? He's more the line of a defensive back or a safety, but this year he has played safety, defensive back, inside out, linebacker, and because he's so quick off the snap, they have him playing lineman right now on offensive and defensive end. So.
Holy snap! It's pretty impressive.
Yes, I'm proud of him. He's had some a lot of solo tackles, and he's loving it as far as introduction. And I played sports growing up, and I just know the importance of what that brings to it in terms of teamwork and discipline and all those things. So so I'm proud as heck of him, man. It's a good thing.
Awesome. Yeah, my 7-year-old girl, she's doing MMA, and she's
awesome.
Like guillotine chokeholds and throwing elbows. I'm just joking.
She's gonna kick some ass.
I need to get her into that eventually. I'm not gonna waste my time putting her through soccer. No, she's gonna learn how to punch, kick, and choke dudes out. That's what's gonna happen.
It's funny. It's real funny you say that, because I tell you what, both my boys, they never were. I tried to get them interested in sports, but I never forced it. Like, I'm not one of those parents that like live through their kids and never played sports, so they want their kids to do it and all that kind of jazz. So I let them really kind of pick their own path and everything. And they started at this house of martial arts where I live, and that is where the transformation really began. I mean, their focus, their stamina, their muscle. I'm not kidding you. It was a game changer for them.
Nice.
So mixed martial arts and the discipline that you learn, as long as it's a good dojo, right? If it's just there to give out belts and take pictures, that's different. But our dojo doesn't do that. Like, literally, they would do in 1 hour session, they would do 100 sit-ups and 100 push-ups in between everything else. That's true.
You see, the modern society, CJ, would say that's child abuse. You shouldn't do that to children. The dojo should spend an entire hour trying to deliberate what gender the sensei is. Yes, that's what they should be doing. God forbid, Siege. God forbid. Oh man, dude, that's awesome, bro.
Yeah, so there's not a whole lot to complain about. Obviously, if you listen to the news and everything else like that, the world is turned upside down. But I think in part, we've had this discussion before as far as the most important wealth that you can establish for yourself and your family is health, right? That's where it needs to begin. And if you don't have that, you can have all the banking accounts, you can have all the funds and everything else like that, but if you don't have that health, it really doesn't matter. I mean, that's kind of the beginning block of everything. And really is maybe you and I be heading into 2020. Maybe we should, with our listeners, put some type of a competition out there or something like that, because I know you've been trying to get at it as well.
Yeah, it's important, man. It's like one of my buddies that I work on the institutional level with. He's a good buddy of mine. He's like a brother. He's just an awesome all around well holistic dude. One of the things he said that's so profound: what's the point of having $1 million in the bank and you have a $200 body? And I said to myself, "Damn, that's correct." And it's so easy to get caught up, dude. It's just like, especially when you're like, quote unquote, a creative or a digital nomad or somebody who who works from home, like myself and like you, CJ. It's quite easy that you just get sidetracked, or even a person's busy life, man. And I'm starting to realize with my busy ass schedule, I'm just gonna have to make the commitment, get my butt up at 4 a.m., hit the gym at 5. And you know what? I really wanted to challenge myself. I think, I think 2020, bro. I think I'm gonna do a bodybuilding show. I think I'm gonna do it.
Nice. Well,
I think
see,
I'm gonna do
you're
it,
younger than I am. I'll be
but
49.
not by much,
Not
man.
much, but I'll be 49 this December, right?
Oh, you could do
So,
it with you could do it too, Steve.
so well, I'm gonna make it a goal because in college I was very much in shape. Sometimes at the gym, literally like 2 times a day, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna
Back
make it
when
a
you were made out of
goal.
rubber and magic when you're in
Oh, dude,
20s.
and so I'm gonna make it a goal. By the time that I reach age 50, I'm gonna be in the best shape of my life. I'm gonna make that a goal.
Yeah. Dude, here's what you know what you should do, man. Get your T levels checked and do some TRT. It'll change your life. It will change your life. And it didn't impact me until I went ahead and got blood work done, and I looked at my my blood levels. I'm like, oh, damn. I'm like, damn, dude, like 300 nanograms of testosterone per deciliter of blood, which right now for an average American male is the doctors will tell you, oh, that's really good. No, it's not. It's terrible. You're like an 80-year-old man's level, So, there's so many things that are impacting male health: the plastics, the contaminants, the phytoestrogens, the hormone disruptors, all the stuff that's in the food, water, and the air you breathe. You're constantly exposed to it, and metabolically and endocrinologically, it's making an impact to your health. Um, I'm a big advocate of the judicious use of testosterone and other steroids that are legally administered by your healthcare professional. Let me put that little snippet in there, where you can direct it yourself. And I'm not telling you guys to go out there and become like professional bodybuilders. Like for TRT, I think you need about anywhere between 100 to 200 milligrams of test, per week. Your juiced out IFBB Pro bodybuilder, he does about 5,000 milligrams a week. Some insane number, like 5 grams, 2 to 5 grams, and that's insanity, And anything when you're overdoing it like that, you're gonna absolutely get hurt, But do it, bro. I think every guy listening to this, man, go get your testosterone levels checked out, go get tested, and get on TRT. It'll make a huge difference for you.
Well, the crazy thing is, I feel like 25, 30. I really, even my wife always says, you're not a young kid anymore. You can't go hanging out till 1 or 2 in the morning or staying awake.
That's what my wife does.
Staying awake all night. What's wrong with you? You're not. I'm like, yeah, okay.
That's what my wife says.
But anyway, a happy wife is a happy life. So you gotta do what you gotta do, B.
Yep, exactly, dude. Exactly. Anyway, brother. Anyway, well, let's get into the news, man.
Let's do it, bro. And I know that isn't it funny how all of a sudden, V, everyone is an expert on the Kurds and Syria. Everyone now is an ordained scholar of the Kurds, and we've turned their back. V, why don't you break that down for us, V? I know you got a lot to say about that, V. Man,
I've been talking about the Kurds ever since this whole Syria debacle happened back in 2013. Okay, 2013, I've been talking about Syria. I've written so many articles on Syria back in the Rogue Money days. If you could find it, it's in the archive somewhere. Damn, I wish I had kept all those articles. It's in there somewhere. It's safe. But anyway, okay. This is interesting. This is very interesting because, all of a sudden Trump gives the green light for the Turks to go ahead and invade. The morning U.S. President Donald Trump has a little surprise for the Kurds in Syria. Today, President Donald Trump I'm sorry. I just lost my train. Okay.
Yeah. So he told troops to get out.
Basically, my computer screen just glitched. I apologize for that. All right, the United States Armed Forces will not support or be involved in the operation. The United States forces, having defeated ISIS territorial caliphate, with no longer be in the immediate area. Turkey will not be responsible for all ISIS fighters in the area captured over the past 2 years in the wake of defeat of the territorial caliphate of the United States by the United States. It's actually not a surprise. Trump had tried several times to remove the U.S. from Syria, and was only held back by the Borg, basically the military, industrial, or the incompetent complex. Last December, Secretary of Defense James the Mad Dog Mattis resigned when Trump ordered the troops to leave Syria. I do not expect anything similar to happen now. Turkey long wanted to move into the Syrian border area east of the Euphrates, and it seized the YPG resistance group with whom the U.S. has allied to go after ISIS as a threat to its country. That view is justified. Erdogan wants a 30-kilometer deep strip, including the M4 highway, which runs west to east in that area. But the border area Erdogan marked is quite populated with some 850,000 people living there. Most of them are Kurds. Turkey wants to replace those Kurds with the Syrian mob that it armed and supported against the Syrian government troops. And it really isn't a Syrian mob. It was a handful of Syrians, a lot of Chechens, bunch of Wahhabis from the House of Saud, a couple of Emiratis, and a few Sunni Yemenites that were involved in the operations in what is known as ISIS. Okay, that's what made up the majority of ISIS or USIS, whatever you want to call them. These people and their families currently live in Turkey, and to move them into the northern Syria would be one of the largest ethnic cleansing operations the world has seen in recent times. Ethnic cleansing is something that Turkey is so experienced with, CJ, it seems, right? People who tend to remember history, or those that have forgotten history, would remember the Armenian genocide. So the Turks have a nice little history of wiping out people, right? And as the saying goes, the Kurds have no friends but the mountains. But there are no mountains in Syria's northeast. And while the YPG might want to fight off a Turkish invasion, they have little chance to succeed. The land is flat, and the YPG forces have only light arms. There's only one solution for them. They will have to call up the Syrian government and ask it to come back to the northeast. That would remove the Turkish concerns and would likely prevent further Turkish moves. The second part of Trump's statement, that Turkey will take responsibility for imprisoned ISIS fighters and families, cannot be taken seriously. Those camps are far beyond the border zone Erdogan seeks. It's long predicted that the Kurds would become the biggest losers of the war in Syria. I've said that. This whole thing where they were literally trying to convince the Kurds and tell them, hey, you know what? You fight for us, and after this whole entire war thing is over. This is the stupidity of the military incompetent complex. You fight for us, and once the war is over, we will carve out a nice little territory for you in the north of Syria, and it'll be yours. You can call it Kurdistan. And there's been a long-standing blood feud in the area against Kurds. And that not only was limited to the Turks, but if you also remember in Iraq's northern region, that the Kurds were constantly gassed, harassed, and killed by the Saddam Hussein regime. You might remember that. And back then, we promised the Kurds, hey, fight with us when we overthrow Saddam. Well, Saddam never was overthrown, and the U.S. left the Kurds to hang out. And this time around, the Kurds, who have always been a nomadic people, they have a paganistic mix of Islam, which the majority of Islamites that are living, the Mohammedans that inhabit much of the Middle East, do not like the Kurds. They don't like the Kurds. They don't like the Azeri people. They think of them as pagans. They think of them as heretics that need to be wiped out. And this time around, once the Russians, and let's be honest here, it wasn't the U.S. fighting ISIS. That's a bunch of bullshit. If you believe that, then I have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you several times over. It was the Russians and the Syrians and the Iranians that came together that killed and crushed ISIS. Okay,
boom.
While the rest of the world was sitting there, like, oh, look, Donald Trump defeated ISIS. I was sitting there laughing my ass off. I'm like, wow, look at that caliber missile strike. I was watching in awe some of the most advanced Russian hardware, much better and more advanced than any of the piece of junk marketing material that we have that we call weapon systems out in the field. working effectively to crush these guys. It was incredible. I was marveling at Caliber cruise missiles. I was marveling at Mi-28 Havoc helicopters. I was marveling at the KMOV Ka-50 Black Sharks. I was marveling at the reports of a possible T-14 Armada main battle tank in full array and the upgraded T-95 MS main battle tanks that could shoot air-to-air missiles right from its turret with advanced active reactive armor. Far better than the M1A2s that are in the Saudi desert that Houthi rebels are hitting with anti-tank missiles, and they're going up like Roman candles. Far better. I'm watching all this and be like marveled, and I'm watching them absolutely decimate USIS. And the CIA, Mossad, MI5 created ISIS. That's what ISIS is. And while everybody's believing this false narrative, I understand why Trump's saying that we got to crush ISIS, this, that, and the other. ISIS was going to be crushed regardless, and it wasn't going to be on the U.S. hands. So getting the U.S. out of there, there's no point for us to be there. Okay, there's no point for us to be there. And if you notice, CJ, it is the chicken hawks that are in Congress. Congress, the most corrupt body politic in the entire world. The most corrupt body politic in the entire world. The most insane parliament in existence is the United States Congress. They literally wave the flag. They scream patriotism. They scream national security and U.S. interests. And all it is corporate interests. All it is private interests. It's not interest for you. It's their interest at your cost. And now, the Kurds, and I've said this before, CJ. I even tweeted about this maybe about 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago. I tweeted, listen, anybody who, and this is when they were trying to sell the Kurds on the idea, hey, look, yeah, it's like the Kurds don't learn. It's like you cannot cut deals with Exceptional Stan. You can't. Exceptional Stan, which is Pepe Escobar's funny way of calling the U.S., Exceptional Stan does and cannot make deals. They can't hold any treaties. They don't keep no promises. So during that entire time, and here's Exceptional Stan making all these promises that, hey, you know what, this is what we're going to do. We're going to give you this land in northern Syria. You're going to have it. You're going to take it over. And then boom. Yeah, we're out of here. And the Kurds, once again, left holding the bag. I feel sorry for the Kurds, CJ. You know? They've always been a nomadic group. They never had a Kurdish land. I mean, you can find Kurds in northern Syria and Iraq. You can find them in Yemen and Saudi Arabia. They're all over the place. But they're in Jordan. You can find them. They just kind of migrate all over the place. So this whole thing of having a Kurdish land, a Kurdish country, is a newfound concept within the last several decades. But now the poor Kurds, dude, I feel sorry for them, man. They're literally cannon fodder, CJ. Literally.
Yeah, very well said, V. I think in each situation, whether it was, Iraq, and they were promised, hey, we're going to carve out part of Iraq for you. And perhaps most recently in Syria, that, hey, we're going to carve out part of Syria for you. And these things never happened. However, V, in saying that, those things did not exist. And you've pointed out this numerous times, and you said it correctly, that they are nomadic. They've never had that piece of land or taken back a land that belonged to their own in regards to history that I'm aware of, V. I'm not sure if you know anything differently.
Say that again. You cut out.
I said just in terms of their the homeland or someplace that they've been kicked out of, their nomadic. They've never had a true area of Kurdistan or what have you that was established, and in part because of Iraq and their involvement with the war there. Why weren't they given? There was an opportunity time there that perhaps maybe they could have carved out a place for them, but by no means is this, the U.S. walking back. We didn't have a mandate. We were never invited into Syria to participate in this to begin with. We were not asked to do that. Now, Erdogan has his own special interest in terms of his involvement. I mean, how many refugees has Erdogan taken into Turkey? So he probably does have a legitimate concern saying, hey, listen, we brought in 3 million, refugees into Turkey, which he always threats all the time that he's going to unload them even more into Europe. So he has a little bit of concern, but to pinpoint this and say that this is the shortcomings of the United States, that we have a responsibility. We did not have that. We did not have that established until John McCain personally went over there and met with the quote unquote rebels, and they established a footprint for the CIA involvement and the creation of ISIS. I mean, it's been very well documented, who funded and armed ISIS. It's an inconvenient truth to Americans. We may not want to hear that. We may want to believe that it's all about freedom, all about liberty, and we're spreading, democracy around the globe. But folks, it's all money driven. It's like what you've said numerous times. Every war is a banker's war.
Absolutely, dude. The Kurds were given this dream, and the dream is having this northern north eastern Syrian territory, and they called it Rojava. That's like they're going to call they even named the country that they're going to inhabit, bro. They're going to call it Rojava. The problem with Rojava is this: the Syrians don't want them there, the Turks don't want them there, and the Iraqis don't want them there. As soon as, and I said this, and I remember my tweets so vividly now, CJ. As soon as the U.S. pulls out, or if the U.S. pulls out, or if the U.S. stops giving support to the Kurds, any Kurdistan, any Rojava, this country, this imaginary country that they're creating, which is a pipe dream sold to them by the CIA and Mossad, if that Rojava were to exist, it will be decimated in a matter of minutes. The life of Rojava, this imaginary country that the Kurds are set up, would be measured in minutes, CJ. In minutes is what would happen. So this whole thing's interesting. Now the Turks. Here's the funny thing about Turks. You thought that the Saudis were terrible military. You thought that these guys who were getting their rear ends wiped out in Yemen. And most people don't know this, but I think I reported on it. I'm not exactly sure. And I think Alexander, what's his name from the Duran, also talked about it as well. And that is that 3 Saudi battalions were captured by the Houthis in Yemen, bro. 3 armored Saudi battalions. Over 1,000 Saudi soldiers were captured, and over 100 officers captured in a trap. Okay, this is not being reported. The pictures were taken by the Houthis, and you see the columns of mechanized, armored personnel carriers, as well as pictures of the Saudi soldiers that were captured. This has been a massive embarrassment to Mohammed bin Salman. A massive embarrassment, because the Saudis are lazy. They don't fight. They always contract mercs to fight on their behalf, and that has failed miserably by the Houthis. What they don't realize, that the Turks don't realize, that the YPG are fierce fighters. Now, granted, northeastern Syria is just a broad, flat, wide plain, and it could be pretty much like shooting fish in the barrel. But if the Kurds, the YPG, were to retreat to areas that are more desolate or more remote, especially mountainous areas, the Turks could have a real guerrilla war on their hands. And if you thought the Saudis were terrible, if you thought the Saudis absolutely sucked as a military unit, wait till you see the Turks, man. It's like the Saudis suck. They're lazy. The Turks also suck. Except the Turks actually believe their own BS. It's gonna get the popcorn out, Siege. It's gonna be good. You're gonna see like 16-year-old snipers, 16-year-old girls who are snipers in the YPG taking out Turkish soldiers from a mile away.
Yeah. I personally think it's a bluff. I don't think Russia is gonna tolerate that. Neither Syria. I think this is all a play, and it's very disappointing to see the amount of rhetoric with the the opportunists are coming board to label this as a this is doing the U.S. harm. Because how long, again, we can talk about it all day in regards to the Middle East and how long have we been there and the implications of that. And people want to believe what they hear, what they see on the TV. They want to see the Lindsey Grahams out there saying all this is going to do is create a lot more ISIS and attacks here on U.S. soil and all this rhetoric and fear mongering.
The funny thing is, CJ, the only thing that has proven to successfully create terrorism wherever the hell it goes is U.S. foreign policy. The schizophrenic, murderous foreign policy. That's what creates the most amount of terrorists. That's what creates the most amount of damage. That's what creates the most amount of death and destruction on the entire planet is the foreign policy of the United States.
People don't. I mean, I think people need to realize what's happening, and there's so much disinformation out there. This whole thought process that all of this is by design. And I was listening to a podcast earlier today that this is the grand plan, that this is all by design of Q and the Patriot team.
Oh God,
that this has happened now at this time because now they're going to start taking out people with Barr and all these things occurring. It can't be more opposite of what's occurring, and people are really, failing to see that. They really are, because I adamantly believe, as much as I don't like a lot of the things that Trump has done, I do believe that Trump is at the core anti-war. I truly believe that, and that can be reflected numerous times, whether it was the bombing of Syria that was basically on empty bases on rural areas, whether it was the rhetoric with North Korea or with Iran. People need to understand that there is a war going on right now between the CIA, the administration, and tying in the military, into that. And their best weapon that they have is politically going after Trump. But if people would open up their eyes to see that the reason why they're pissed as hell at him right now and going after him with everything, and people know I post a lot of negative things about Trump, a lot, but the reason why they're going after him is because they thought he was the one that was going to deliver the war. They thought they were delivering another Bush who was going to go ahead and pull the trigger and launch this war. And the moment that he scaled back and didn't launch the attack on Iran, after the Saudi blowing up the oil fields in Saudi, which probably was more likely a false flag. After he said, no, we're not going to do that. And then after he fired Bolton is when they really went full scale, after him, saying, hey, you know what, you're not delivering on this war that we thought we were going to get. We're going to get you out. We're going to get somebody else in. And these people who continues to say, well, things would be a lot different if Hillary was in there. Well, yeah, because they knew that Hillary would never be able to deliver the war either, because people wouldn't stand for it. People would wake up to the reality, kind of like whenever Obama tried to bring U.S. troops into Syria, and when the original timeline, when they said, well, yeah, we're going to create a no-fly zone in Syria, and military personnel were posting on social media that no, we're not fighting their war. We're not going to do that. They systematically knew that she was not going to be able to deliver this war that they've had in their mind that they're going to launch, and that's why specifically they're going after him. That's what it's all about. And I think we're at a point now where there is real danger, and that danger is primarily because you're seeing a lot of the conservatives now go after Trump, and I believe that they potentially could get enough votes in the Senate. I mean, think about it. Lindsey Graham is going after him. You have the Mitt Romney crowd going after him. The only person that's supporting this drawback from Syria is gosh darn, I just lost my thing, is Rand Paul.
Yep, and Tulsi
Gabbard. The only people that come out and say, yeah, this is a good move. Let's get our troops out. Let's get them out of harm's way. And that's the danger that we're in, and people don't even realize it. People do not understand that we're probably, again, one of the probably the greatest crisis that's occurring right now. and that is an undermine of a coup attempt in the United States, where potentially, does the military get involved to surround the administration, to say, hey, you know what, we're not going to be fighting this war. We know you guys want the war, but we're not going to be doing this. We're really seeing that battle take place right now, and they're going after him with everything. And so these people that are out there that are doing these podcasts are saying that, you know what, this is all by design, that, Trump launches specifically, and you go back to, Q's post number 3-4-5, that this is the plan, and trust sessions and trust bar that's going to happen. That's a lie. There's no proof at all that this is by design, that this is by design of why this is happening now. If we're led to believe that this is by design, that this is happening now, then we also should be believing too that this is by design to create so much chaos here in the United States, the left, right, the wars, everything going on, to create so much chaos that we stay distracted from the economic tsunami that's right in front of us.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Very good points, bro. Because we are at the end of the day, what's really happening, folks? It's a cold civil war that's happening. We are in a cold civil war. I think Rush Limbaugh is the one that coined that term, and I agree with him wholeheartedly. It's a cold civil war. And there are two factions here. There is the globalist versus the nationalist factions, and it is a chess game. I wouldn't call it 3D chess or anything like that, but it is move counter move, and that is what you're seeing being played out throughout the world. And the world leaders, especially those in China and Russia, Iran, India, and a few other places in the world, understand this. They see this, and those that are awake and observant here in the United States, we also see this as well. How this plays out is going to be very interesting. The only way that this thing wins, folks, the only way the win is going to come is if a devastating blow happens to these globalist, quote unquote, deep staters. Someone has to go down. Someone of prominent name has to be brought to trial. They have to be brought to justice. They have to be either arrested or summarily executed. One of these things has to happen to either one or several individuals. That will restore morale back to the country from every single level. But as it stands right now, we are in a cold civil war. We have the far leftist idiots, the libtards. We have the cuck-servatives and the neocons. We have the CIA. We have the other deep state apparatchiks that are at work right now, and against the rest of us. And they're that and their media puppets, all arrayed against us, against what it means to be an American. And it's these internationalists who want to continue to destroy and erode this country. And it's incredible, CJ. They're doing everything in their power to goad this president into a war. And it's also remarkable that the president did, about a day or two ago, activate the Marine reserves that are specifically geared for quote-unquote national emergencies. And from what I'm hearing through several sources, is they are in and around Washington, D.C. So the question becomes, what does the president know? Does he know that maybe that the deep state is trying to move against him? Does he know that the intelligentsia, let's not even call it the deep state, because most people, like guys like Bannon, have watered down and destroyed the meaning of the deep state. If people think the deep state is idiots like Chuck E. Cheese Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, then my God, I have a bridge in San Francisco. I have a street in San Francisco to sell you, filled with feces and needles. But the deep, let's call it the covert state. Right? Let's call it the covert state. And the covert state are they moving, actively to assassinate this president? Are they moving actively to get rid of him? Because they tried to ruin his reputation with the whole Russiagate, and that's blown up in their face. They've tried to get rid of him several ways. They, first thing they do is they try to destroy your reputation. If they cannot destroy your reputation, and you still remains resilient, you still come out winning, then the final deck of cards is to have you killed. Are we witnessing this, CJ? Are we witnessing a coup that could possibly lead to an assassination?
Yeah, and good points. V, and the whole conversation regarding civil unrest, all those things, those threats about if they move on him, what would the Patriots do and everything else like that. I wish we had the answers, but what I do know though is that there's enough distractions that are occurring with everything else, and I also call into question, um, that tweet that came out yesterday in regards to, I'm a brilliant mind, or I can't really exactly state what it listed, but it was the one where he said, if Turkey moves on them, I will smash them economically, and like I've done before and everything like that. I think we need to watch, because I think that they may get the tech giants involved a little bit too, to kind of undermine what information. Remember, as much as it can be used to send messages out and everything else, it can also be used against him as well. It would be nothing for them to create to take over his account, and silence him, and really shut him out from any type of communication altogether. And if you're listening to the MSM, which I do, I know a lot of people are like, I turn it off, I don't listen. Well, I do, because I need to know the lies and the disinformation that they're spreading, so we counter it, right? We have to counter it. But we are starting to see the likes of like Fox News, that they have no problem promoting war. They truly don't. If you look, they're the ones that back with the Bush administration, that aligned with spreading the war. They support war. They truly do, and that's why they'll give a platform to Lindsey Graham. They'll give a platform to these Republicans that are coming in and questioning it, because they understand that plan was for war with Iran. That was the goal. That's what they had their eyes set on, and it didn't happen. So they're mad as hell. I know I said it earlier, but that's what they wanted, and they didn't get it. So gosh, I look at troops coming out of Syria as a sign of hope, a little glimmer of maybe peace of pulling out. I pray and I hope that it's not a political stunt. I hope that it's not to try to bring in some of the people who are anti-war, and who have started questioning the last couple of years as far as things that are going on. I hope it's not a political stunt, because I think it's causing. I don't think that it is, because it's causing just as much frustration and anger in the neocon base as it is to the left. But I think that the question that people have to really ask and look at is that when you see the conservatives and the Democrats, when you see them align to attack an individual who is anti-war, who doesn't want that for humanity, then you really have to ask yourself, who do you align with? Who do you align with in terms of when you witness both the left and right go after an individual because he won't promote and launch a war. And that's the message that people need to understand and listen to. Even people on the far left, is that, okay, so you're telling me now you're pro-war, you want to start war? I thought at one time that the Democratic Party used to be the anti-war party. What happened, V?
Yeah, exactly right, CJ. And the only way this whole hunger and pandering for war ends is when this country gets its ass handed to it. And whether that's going to be, if they, I mean, any sort of anybody who says that we're going to go to war with Iran is foolishness. It's pure foolishness. The Pentagon itself knows that it cannot win a war against Iran. They war gamed thousands of scenarios on invading Iran with airstrikes, this, that, and the other, and the U.S. loses miserably. Okay? Look, our weapon systems and our military doctrine and theories are split in half. The majority of platforms that we have to field are designed during the Cold War with a Cold War-like strategy and mindset, pretty much. Then we have another small fraction that's designed to deal with smaller, regional, urban-like conflict that we're seeing in in places like these not urban like, but these small little conflict zones, right? These little flare up zones. So that's where the military split. We're not, and we can't face somebody who's a technological rival. And the Russians are not stupid enough. They're not stupid to begin with, but they're not dumb enough to waste their time and energy trying to directly confront the U.S. They won't do it. But they're smart enough to sell to, let's say, a country like Iran any of the systems, any of the weapons that they want. And we've seen this with the Houthis in Yemen. And we've seen this in Syria as well. You have Russian-trained Syrian troops versus American-trained ISIS. Who won that one? We're going to see I'm saying if the war party wins, I guarantee you that there will be, if there is a war and they want to get it done, it will be a massive, massive defeat. But I don't think the Pentagon wants to do this. See, the Pentagon doesn't want to engage in a really hot conflict because this is not about winning wars. It's not about winning battles. It's about making money. The military-industrial complex exists to make money. The military-industrial complex is the retarded half-brother of the banksters. The banksters bankroll the military incompetent complex. The military incompetent complex's role is perpetual war. His wicked, twisted half-brother, which is the bankster, his role is perpetual debt. And that is why, folks, for as long as we have been alive, every single one of you listening to my voice, this country, the United States of America, has been at perpetual war and perpetual debt. And this will not end well, CJ. It will not end well.
It will not. Unfortunately, it will not be.
Absolutely. And that's the broadcast, folks. Thank you all for listening in. Again, hit the thumbs up button. Please, please, please hit the thumbs up. Show you love us. It helps out as little as it can in this modern YouTube that we're dealing with. And also make sure you go to roguenews.com. And also, please follow us on Twitter at RealRogueNews. Check the description links on the bottom for our sponsors, mycbdedibles.com, where you get delicious, safe, and efficacious CBD products, edibles, as well as vapes that will not kill you. And that's very important. And also, guys, check out the Patreon. The link is in the description box. You can support me over there. And with that being said, we're over and out.